Hello and welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. I'm your host for today. I'm Jem and I'm here with my friends Alex and Matt. So before we get started, if you want to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gaming the system for some exclusive content, or you can send us a one-off donation via PayPal to our email address, wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com. We are discussing all things spooky. So this we thought we'd look at horror games and the horror genre, and particularly from the perspective of equality and inclusivity. And it's a really interesting topic. We've got a huge amount to get through, so we're going to try and fit it all into this hour. But if we don't, then it may run over into another half hour. So that will be effectively three episodes going forward. So we will see how we get on. So before we start, I thought we could set the mood, a little bit of a spooky mood, and I thought I was going to ask you, Alex and Matt, if you would regale us with a spooky fireside tale fit for Halloween. Who wants to go first?
Who fancies it? Shall I go first? You can go first. Go on then, Matt.
Go.
You're welcome.
First, I'm going to set the ambience of it. So, there's an urban legend in Japan of the 8-foot-tall woman. And this is the story of her, one of my absolute favourite scary stories. There's this guy who's Japanese-American, raised in America. His grandparents lived in Japan. Every year, goes and visits them, loves spending time with them, and he loves playing around in their garden. And one day, when he was about 7, 8 years old, he was over by a hedge, and suddenly he heard in the quiet, "Po, po, po," and he goes, "Oh, where's that coming from?" And he looks up, and he sees a strange woman's head poking over the top of these very, very high hedgerow, and she's looking at him. And hello, and she doesn't say anything, and so he gets up and wanders back inside. And then later on that day, he says to his parents, "Oh, have you seen? There was this strange woman over the hedge." And the grandparents go, "Tell me exactly what you said, what you saw, and what she said. What happened?" And he said, "Well, she just looked over and was going, po, po, po." And I go, "Oh my God, what did you do? Did you say anything to her?" And he goes, "Yes." Just, oh no, stay in the house, lock all the windows, don't open the door unless it's definitely us. And then he gets locked in the room for the night as they desperately go off and try and find things. And he says before he leaves, "She likes you." And they go, "Oh, scary." And they the next day they pack all of them, including a Buddhist priest, into the van. And they drive to the airport, and they see out the window this great big woman thing coming after them. And they drive and drive and drive and drive, and they get to the airport. They get him on the plane. They get him back to America. He's safe. But unfortunately, they say you can never, ever, ever come back to Japan because she'll be there waiting for you. And then years and years pass, and the grandfather dies. And so it's a shame he can't go to his funeral. And then a little while after that, he finds out that his grandmother has terminal cancer and she has only got a few months to live. And she rings him up out of the blue one day and says, "Oh, I really just wish you could come and see me one last time." And he goes, but what about the 8-foot-tall woman? You said never to never to come back again. And then there's a long pause, and then he hears on the other end of the line, "Po, po, po."
Oh my god!
And that story is fucking burned into my brain because it's so horrifying, and that's an abridged version of it. But I in preparation for this, I tried listening to the podcast that I heard it on again, and I could only get halfway through because it is just a perfect little story. So this is a perfect opportunity for me to be brave and confront it again.
Shall I go with my one, Alex? And then
Yeah,
you can
go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. So, I couldn't remember. I'm so bad at remembering stories, and I couldn't remember anything. So, I went hunting around on the internet, as you do, and I found this story, which is called "First Girls," and it's written by Jessica Luke Garcia. And was published in February this year on the Nightmare magazine website. So if you're interested, go have a look. There's lots of scary stories and things there. But I felt like it was appropriate for today's conversation. So let me just do it so I can actually see you guys. So, we are the sluts who writhe beneath jockish hips in the woods, nails clawing, tongues heavy. We're only the beginning, the motion picture reel, unreeling. Our heads will roll before the credits do. We won't make it to the end. We never anticipate the danger. What danger? There was never danger before there was us. We're not like you, final girl, with your virgin's caution and instinct to survive. We're not survivors, though we might have liked to be. Our mothers didn't teach us to lock doors or tie tourniquets. We walk home alone at night. We never learned how to hide. Why would we need to? We never thought. When they kill us, they string us up for you to find, like Christmas morning. It's how we know you love us. They wouldn't do it if it didn't hurt. We are the shots fired, the warning. Careful, girl, it could happen to you. This is our cosmic dichotomy. These are our roles. You will live through this. We always die first. We are horny. We are so horny. Even from the grave, we're hot for it, ready. We know all the tricks. We read them in Cosmo. Altoids and pop rocks and thumbs at the centres of our clenched fists. We giggle, twine fingers, lift shirts and flash tits. We flirt with the slasher. We seal the deal with death. The boys who perish with us have the worst of it. They were raised on free pornography. No football scholarships for them now. Forever 18. We pass them amongst ourselves between hauntings like chapstick. On the coldest nights, when it's just us girls, we move together. We learn new tricks. We do it in the dark. We miss you, though. We do. We know what goes unspoken at our funerals. It means a lot to us when there's screen time for one. It means the world to see you cry. The whole town always knew our wicked, wanton ways would lead us here eventually. Better, isn't it, to be the parable in your story rather than the tragedy of our own? We were asking for it, really. We're not stupid. We only played dumb for a laugh. The messages written in our blood read, "You're next." But that's not what they mean. They mean, this is what you get. We understand, of course, when you forget about us. There's a killer in these streets and he wants you dead. No time to mourn. We help you when we can, skin prickling, lips against the back of your neck, shattered china, phantom caresses through your soft skin, stirring up that gut feeling that can't be ignored. We create the ambience. We lurk in the score between dissonant chords. But you're supposed to carry us with you in more than just spirit. You in spirit, we're not heavy, even alive. We barely weighed 111. What would it honestly kill you to say our names after we're gone? We can be vindictive, we'll admit that. It's shitty, but we're not used to being ignored. When you stumble in your frantic flight to freedom, sometimes it's our feet you trip over. The tire iron that clangs to the floor while you cower in the garage. A love note. Come on, do it. Do something. Kill or die. Dying isn't hard. We do it all the time. It's just like kissing. Until it's not. If you want, we can show you how. Do you think of us after it's over, wrapped in your safety blanket while the police sweep the scene? We're there. We haven't left you. We never will. You are the star, final girl, and we are the coffee steam spectres rising from the cup clutched in your trembling hands. We're the plot device, the hecatomb. As you wonder, is this really the end or just the first of a franchise? We are the chilly winds sweeping through your hair. We could braid it for you. Never mind the blood. Fishtail, ladder, lattice, French, just like old times.
That was very, very relevant. Very good. All right. So
it's very reminiscent of the perfect victim.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, you've got the virginal innocent one who's the last one.
We
left. And then
we'll definitely be talking about Last Girls at some point.
Sure.
Alex, let's hear yours.
Right. Now, I don't know how long it'll be because it's entirely of my own creation and I may ad-lib, but it's called Please Mind the Gap. Okay. So we all know that to get to a campsite storytelling, you have to find somewhere that's very woodland-like and has a lot of natural space. And where better than the South Downs to do that? So you decide to catch a train from where you live in Portsmouth to Hazelmere in the South Downs. And you get on the train, sit down, all seems fine, and you hear the announcement. Welcome to the Southwestern train to London Waterloo, calling at Portsmouth and Southsea, Fratton, Havant, Petersfield, Hazelmere, Godalming, Guildford, Woking and London Waterloo. Expected arrival time at 15:27. The journey begins in earnest. You approach Fratton and you hear the announcement. Passengers are reminded that due to a destroyed platform, you must only be alighting in carriages 1 to 8. You find that a little odd, but think nothing of it. Maybe it was your headphones blaring out a message, and you continue to reach Fratton. The next station is Havant. As the train carries on through, you glance out of the window and see a couple of odd things. At first, you think that could be perhaps a figure in the tree. You look back again and it's just a plastic bag. You look into a field and see some horses there. You look back again. Are they bleeding? What could be going on? You reach Havant. And once again, you hear an announcement. If you see something that isn't right, phone the British Transport Police on 666. See it, say it, suffer. Something's definitely not right. You decide to check the journey on your phone to make sure that the train is definitely the train you should be getting, because this doesn't sound right at all. You're now leaving Havant. and you hear another announcement. We are now approaching Peter's Dead. That can't be right. It's Peter's Field, surely. But all you can see running along the announcement screen is Peter's Dead in capital letters, over and over and over. You check your phone again to make sure you're definitely on the right train and wonder if you ought to call somebody. As you look up from the window, all you can see is blackness. Pitch blackness, as if you're in a tunnel. Surely it will pass, and you'll come out to the fields again. But as the minutes tick by, the pitch blackness continues, and you hear yet another announcement from this odd train. We are now approaching Helslemere. Please mind the gap when you get off the train, and take all your personal belongings with you. Everything starts to turn a little more red. You feel like you really need to get off the train. And suddenly the doors whoosh open and you're met with a hot fire. You hear it again. Please mind the gap when you leave the train. Between the train and the pit. Welcome to hell. You take a leap. Falling straight into hell. Ta-da. That is it. But yes, I thought that would be a little fun one. Oh, sorry, Jim, you're muted.
I was just saying very positive things. I was just saying that was really amazing. And for somebody who's generally stays away from scary things, that was quite terrifying.
I took a lot of inspiration from things like Doctor Who and the kind of psychological horror episodes that they have, where you've got normal things and then something goes a bit wrong with them, and I find that quite thrilling, actually. Mm-hmm. It is terrifying, but that's an aspect of horror that I could probably that would maybe be my entry point, I think, if I was going to play more of those types of games.
It's the most. I'm sure we'll come onto it, but that's the most interesting kind of horror. Something it's horrifying rather than
just a jump scare or a spooky face or something like that. Yeah.
So actually, that leads us really nicely on to the first question, which is about what do you look for in a horror game? What do you look for in your horror? I mean, we can move between, I think, film and stories and games a little bit here, to be flexible, but obviously I want our focus to be about gaming. So what do you look for in your horror games?
I'm not a particularly horror-y person. But one of my game ideas for one of the games that I want to make is a World War I horror game, and it being about basically you get trapped in this haunted bunker, and you're going through it, experiencing each level is sort of an element of horror from World War I. Gassing and horses being the torment of horses and wounds and fire and all that kind of stuff. And so I've been putting it off what I've been doing for my first person shooter research, where I barreled through as many first person shooters as I could to make notes of things. And then I'm going to have to start playing the really good horror games, which are Alien Isolation is probably the best. Watching streams of the Resident Evil 4 remake. That was pretty good. Because it's, in order for it to be more than just jump scares, it needs to create a distinctive universe in which everything's happening, so that you're hooked in, and the aliens, the perfect horrifying thing, and then you add on top of it the androids. I think they're called Working Joes or something, and a mystery. It needs to be, where am I? What's going on? And that slow burn up of things. But then there's also the side of it. I think I prefer action. I like action horror, and because I don't particularly care for the survival horror stuff. Although the Outlast games, particularly the first one, is like the perfect, like, insane horror game. And I've watched people play that through, so there's tons of that. And oh my god, have either of you seen or played through PT?
No, I think I have heard of it
when
though.
it came
But yeah,
out?
Yeah, I feel like I've heard of it.
So it must have been 10 years ago. Not 10 years ago. It was between, so this is a clue, it was between Metal Gear Solid 5, which I think was 2015, and Death Stranding, which was 2020.
wasn't it like a demo of something in Death Stranding, or is that?
Yeah, it was close. It was so PT stands for playable trailer.
Okay.
And it's a corridor. It's an L-shaped corridor. Not an L shape. You walk ahead. You turn right. It's a corner corridor, and you just walk through it over and over again. And things keep on changing, and things keep on getting more and more unsettling. And it's just a corridor. They managed to capture the soul of what horror should be in this little corner. And it turns out that it was a demo for Silent Hill that Hideo Kojima was making. And the end of it is you get out of the house and then the camera pans out and it's Norman Reedus, Daryl from The Walking Dead. And everyone goes, oh my God! Silent Hill made by Hideo Kojima. And that is it. It hasn't got better than that. I've never seen anything that terrifying. So that's It feels like it's peaked, and it's sort of there hasn't really been anything to match it.
I think there's that the uncanny is one of the scariest things for me. I think the idea that something is just different, that it could be normal, but something is just off. I want to say, like, when you've got like scary people climbing on the ceiling, but I think that's quite a lot off. there's quite a lot between that and normal, isn't there? But those kind of things, like somebody's just walking funny or moves funny. So I think that's the thing. The idea that you're just walking down a corridor and things are changing and things are getting weird is and it's also an allegory, isn't it, for a sort of descent into sort of full on insanity. And I think that's one of the things, one of the tropes really that horror uses.
I hate the thing like when you're starting to feel like you're going mad. Everyone else is being different, and you start questioning what's happening. Have either of you seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Donald Sutherland. That's one of the most horrifying films I've ever seen, because one is this dog man thing. Donald Sutherland kicks this pod, which so basically their body snatchers are spores that come from space and make a copy of you when you fall asleep. And there's this homeless guy falling asleep and the pod next to him, and Donald Sutherland kicks it, and the homeless guy's dog was there as well, and it ends up creating a dog with this man's face on it. And this film was like 50 years old, and it looks horrifyingly real. And that just rising feeling of panic of everything's going bad and changing around me. And then there's I won't spoil the twist at the end about what's happened to the real people, but that bleakness, this bleak horror that really gets to me the most, which is why I avoid it the most.
Yeah, I think for me, for the games that I've played that have had horror elements to them, I like to have some kind of mystery that you're solving that drives the protagonist forward through the fear and through the horror, because that's what I want to find out. And if I can focus much on that, on getting to know the answer to the mystery and solving it, or like the answer to the questions that the game poses or the story poses, or that if I get a story that really reels me in, that's what's going to get me through the horror, essentially. I think of things, one of the earliest ones, probably, I think Tomb Raider's got a lot of supernatural horror elements to it, particularly in the more modern ones. But there's also the most terrifying I've ever been playing a game is in the first Uncharted. I don't know if either of you have played.
I have played it, yeah.
You have to go in the submarine, and you have to go and do the generators, and there's all the zombie creatures, and you have to go through all the dark corridors. And it was horrible. I actually started singing to myself just to like get myself to like
it's
lighten
okay.
it. And I turned I turned down all the music and stuff. And also actually LA Noire had a really scary bit that was in some sewers. It was all dark and you had to shoot somebody in the sewers and they were like coming around the corners. Things with corners are really horrible. Corners are horrible generally. But I always like to have some story that I can get really invested in, that really helps me push through. Not anything like really sort of surface level like jump scares or anything like that. That doesn't really appeal to me. You know, things like Five Nights at Freddy's, although apparently I don't know the plot of that one, but I've given to understand that it's pretty basic. It's just lots of jump scares. But I like to have a meaty story.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. And one of the things that I've always been frustrated with sort of scary movies, scary games is that the stories are usually so rubbish, and you get to the end of it and you're kind of like, oh. I watched a really scary film one time, and it ended with the collapse of this block of flats as a result of this thing. And I couldn't help but walk away from it thinking, well, how are they going to explain this? Who's going to pay for this? You know, so much of it just doesn't there's so many plot holes in too many horrors. And I think, you know, like Matt was saying about some of the older horrors are actually the scariest because, and I do have a theory about this, because one of I haven't rewatched it, and maybe I should, but one of the most scary movies that I ever watched is called The Tingler. And it was a story about, I know it sounds awful, and it was one of these late night movies that was on satellite TV back when satellite TV was relatively new. And it was clearly like an old movie. It was in black and white. And it was about a creature that would basically go into your spine and it was sort of scare you to death effectively in the end. But it sat on your spine, so you didn't know it was there, but you got that shiver down the back of your spine, that feeling, and that was what it was kind of like based on. And it was terrifying, and the special effects were utterly crap. You know, it had none of that, but it had a really good story because they couldn't rely on the special effects. And I do think that these days the story has gone out of many horrors because they're just relying on the jump scares and the gore. And I think games are, you know, very easily fall victim to that because they can kind of justify it with like, well, we need the players to have something to do, and the thing to do is to, you know, kill things. So, you know, it's getting that balance, isn't it, between having an involving engaging storyline and having the ability to actually change the environment and impact on the storyline. For me, yeah, having that storyline is really important. I really love a bit of supernatural thriller. I like that. I like it being a bit scary, in a sort of spooky way, in a sort of mystery way. I do not like just gore for the sake of gore. I don't mind it if it makes sense, but I don't like it for the sake of it. And I think I really liked Resident Evil The Village, but to be fair, it wasn't a patch on the original Resident Evils of the day, because like you were saying, Alex, corners are always a scary thing. And I remember when I first played the early Resident Evils, just being literally like standing there going like, I don't want to go round, because you had no idea what was going to be around that corner. And you genuinely felt your heart up in your throat, and and it was like sometimes you just had to take a break because like I'm too stressed. And those kind of games, they really suck you in, and they give you that entertaining level of fear, as opposed to just like, oh, it's so horrible. So, I think that is so important for me, at least.
It's one of the reasons why studios prefer big action games, is because it's like if you say to someone, right, go and stand in front of 100 people and talk for an hour. If you just go up and say, right, I'm just going to go out and say words and do things and wave my hands at things, that's easy. But if you say, make them laugh for an hour, then you go, oh, I don't want to do that because that's really hard. You go, scare them for an hour. Oh, that's hard as well. And that's why it's games like I thought Resident Evil Biohazard was a masterpiece. They hit that perfectly in that thing between survival horror and action horror. And then Resident Evil 8, they sort of it felt like they just went, we don't know how to scare people. We're scared of trying to work out how to scare people. So we're just going to make it an action game with a massive vampire woman. And that Tingler makes me think of, there's a theme of anything that screws with your body in horror, because that's what the Alien does, and it's what the Tingler does, and it's what the Body Snatchers do, and it's something that turns you into something grotesque and horrifying. The concept of losing yourself, because my core of things is I think, therefore I am. And what if that is being twisted away?
Yeah. Or stolen. Yeah. Which I think is one of the sort of core things of the sort of demon storylines and things like that. That's all about, possession and being taken over by someone else and being subsumed.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.